So this is us starting to see the beauty and the power of mathematics. That tiny little equation y equals mx plus c represents an infinite number of straight lines. So let's go ahead and we'll look at a few examples of using our y equals mx plus c. So let's say we wanted to draw the line y equals minus 2x plus 4. Now what I want you to do is pause the video and try and think about what this line is going to look like, and then get a pen and paper and draw the line out, and then get to the graphical calculator and check and see whether you actually got it correct. So let's work through this one together. We'll draw in our axis system here. We'll call this x and we'll call this y. Now if this value of 4 wasn't there, we could just say this would be y equals minus 2x, and we'd know it passed through the origin. So if we said that x was a value of 1, then y would be minus 2 times 1, which is minus 2. So it passed through this point here. If x was minus 1, then y would be minus 1 times minus 2, which is plus 2, so we know it passed through a point up here as well. So we know it passes through the origin and this point and this point, so we can join these together and we'll have a line that runs something like that. Now you don't have to get it exact, it's just a rough indication, but that's not the entire line, is it? The actual equation we've got is minus 2x plus 4, so we'd be taking this line here and it would pass through the point 0, 4, so we would go along 0 and up 4, so you've got 1, 2, 3, 4. So it would be the same line as this one, but it would be passing through this point. So we could draw that same line there, but it would pass through this point here. So this is our line here, and this is the graph of this line. So let's go ahead, we'll try another one. Now again, you don't need to take the examples I'm doing here. You can sit down with a pen and a bit of paper and write out your own example. So let's say we had y equals 3x minus 2. Then if you drew this out, we would have our x and our y. Now we want to get away from the idea of us putting the 1 and the minus 1 in for x. We want to just notice that if this value here is a positive value for the gradient, then we know the gradient runs up in this direction. So from left to right it runs up the way. So we know the line's going to run up something like this. And we know it's going to pass the point, but it's going to go through the point minus 2, so in y is minus 2, so we go to the point minus 2. And we know the line's going to run up this way. And we know that it's going to be along 1 and up 3, along 1 and up 3, along 1 and up 3, because this is what the gradient tells us. So we know the line's going to run up something like this here. So this is going to be roughly what our line looks like. So the best thing to do is take this, put it in the graphical calculator and see whether you get a line that looks like this. So we'll do one more, and after we've done this one, I suggest you write down a few yourself on a piece of paper and try and work through the same process that I've been doing here. So let's look at something different here. Y equals minus a half x minus 2. So again, sit down and think about that and think about what that's going to look like. So we'll draw out our axis system here. This is our x and our y. Now we know again it's going to pass through the point minus 2. So y is minus 2, so we'll go to that point there, that point there. So we know it's going to go through this point here. We don't know what the gradient is, we have to go and have a look and see. Well, it says here the gradient is minus a half. Now we know from looking at the gradient, if the gradient is minus, then when you go from left to right, it must run down this way. So we know it's going to be a line that's going to go through this point here, and it's going to run down in this direction. But we have to work out how steep the line's going to be. Well, it says here the line's going to be a value of a half. So that means that whenever we go along one in the x direction, we're going to have to go down the value of a half in the y direction. Or if we went along 2 in the x direction, we go down a value of 1 in the y direction. So it's going to be a line that runs kind of like in this, like that. Okay, so it's not going to be a steep line, it's going to be a shallow line. So I suggest you take that, put it into the graphical calculator and check and see whether you get a line that looks roughly like this. So that's all we're going to talk through here. Sit down, get about 10 or 12 lines, just make them up or get someone to write them down on a bit of paper for you. Try and think about them in your own head, what they're going to look like. After you've thought what they look like, draw them down a piece of paper, go onto the graphical calculator and check and see whether you got them correct. So what you want to be able to do after a little bit of practice is draw out the equation of a line within 2 or 3 seconds. So for example, if I gave you the line y equals 2x plus 4, you should be able to draw that out on your own head within a couple of seconds and then draw it down on a piece of paper. And you will be able to do that. All you need to do is a little bit of practice, and I suggest you write down some more lines and then think about what they look like, draw them down and then go into the graphical calculator and check and see whether you got them correct. So once you're able to do that, you can move on to the next video.